Thank you for coming with us on this journey to a golden future.
We pray that today's broadcast will help you in some way to find, fulfill, and finish God's will for your life.
Now we invite you to join us in the Golden State Baptist College radio studio. Welcome to A Golden Future. I'm Brother Fuller.
And I'm Brother Simmons.
And we are glad to be back on this recorded broadcast.
We are.
Up on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. Those of you that listen on Amazon Music, you're the real troopers.
I would like to know if there is someone who listens on Amazon Music.
I think we would all like to know. Well, hey, Brother Simmons, I think we're going to have a quick kind of shot in the arm broadcast today.
It's not
going to be super long, but it'll still be very interesting, I hope. So a couple weeks ago, we talked about purpose.
Right.
How to find your purpose. We talked about people of purpose. Today, we're going to talk about influence.
I like that.
Influence.
Do you look straight at your camera when you're on this?
Usually I don't.
Do you make eye contact with them, or do you break away so that way they don't think you're watching them, but you're actually watching them?
I usually just look at you. Every once in a while, I'll look down at the camera. This is behind-the-scenes information. You ready?
Right. We need to know this.
I'll look down at my computer because my computer has the camera.
Okay.
And my computer, I need to see the switch between the different cameras.
Okay.
Yeah, so right now I'm switching just to a full of you.
Good to know.
And now split screen of both of us. And then I can just go straight to me. But I got to look down in order to see that.
Good to know.
So anyways, let's talk about influence. Okay. I was reading your book from your side of the desk.
Thank you.
It's called Lines of a Layman. We talked about this book months ago on the broadcast.
Yes, we did.
And it's written by J.C. Penney. If you don't know who he is, where have you been living? You know?
Third world country? I don't know.
That's true. Maybe I offended somebody with that. But he basically very successful businessman.
Sure.
But he was also a Christian, taught Sunday school, stuff like that. And he wrote several, I guess you'd call them like a journal entry.
Yeah.
It's a short, not even a full page sometimes, just about
ones.
different topics. And so he wrote one about influence.
Okay.
And I want to share a couple of quotes with you from this one little paragraph, and I want to get your thoughts.
Okay.
He asks this question to start, okay? He says, did you ever stop to consider that your every thought, word, and action has a direct influence, not only on your own life, but on that of the people associated with you? Have you ever stopped to consider that?
Explain to me.
Well, he says everything that you think has a direct influence on your life, but also on others.
Okay.
Every word that you say influences your life, but it also influences others.
Okay.
And then your actions as well. And he says each one of those thoughts, words, actions, not only do they influence your life directly, but they influence those around you, the people associated with you.
I think that gets taught a lot more in the sibling realm, you know what I mean? Like with those looking out. I know in youth groups they also push it to say, you don't think so, but I promise you there's some kindergartner looking up to you. Yeah. And I guess it's true. I mean, I think I could definitely say it's true because I had those people who they didn't know, but I emulated my life after them from a young child. Yeah.
And it's interesting. He went on to kind of share an illustration.
Okay.
And it was basically a tree was casting a shadow on a house. And as the branches were moving up and down, though the tree wasn't hitting the house, the shadows were all over. And he was basically saying that's kind of how our influence is.
Oh, that's a deep
that's a very
example.
Deep thought. But he was just sitting at it one day, looking at the shadow up and down on the house, and he was like, that's like our influence.
Man, that's
not only is it directly influencing, the leaves on the tree are moving you,
sure,
but those around you are also influenced.
That's some crazy personification right there.
I know. I was like, whoa.
Did he write poems and stuff too? I wonder what he read.
It almost seemed poetic.
It sounds like Henry Thoreau, or I don't know. I can't even think of some quotes
Wadsworth,
right now. Yeah,
Longfellow, all those
Longfellow.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's so true. Everything that you think, you might think, like, it's just a thought that I have, but that influences other people.
So I've also heard this too. And maybe it's the wrong perspective, but some people say, like fighters, MMA fighters, I've heard them say this before, or professional boxers, they say don't speak. It sounds kind of kind of silly, right? They say don't speak ill of yourself out loud because your body hears it. Have you heard that before?
I've heard
Have you heard that?
Like, I haven't heard that exact quote, but something similar.
But it's true, because it's almost like, and I'm not not trying to be spooky, but someone said you are what you think, you know?
Yeah.
And so those things, you almost speak it into existence. Oh man, they say don't call yourself dumb or ignorant, or don't say, oh man, I'm such a failure, because you verbalize that. It takes work to verbalize that, and then it sort of like becomes ingrained. That's not what you want to be.
Yeah.
And it's not like saying, oh, I'm a millionaire, and you're going to be a millionaire. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But when you verbalize it, it's almost like you're abusing yourself.
Yeah. I mean, the Bible even talks about how a young man can cleanse his way by, taking heed according to the word. It also says something about renewing your mind.
Sure.
And that's talking about your thoughts, and like renewing it, refreshing it, and making sure that, even though it's just a thought, it can definitely bring you down, or could even bring you up.
Sure.
So,
and it's what they say with the military, with sports and things like that. So anything that takes physical ability, takes strength to do, they always say it. They always say it's about 40% ability, and the rest is all mental. Your body quits at like the 40%, not even the halfway mark. Like when things are tough, your mind and your brain is telling you, no, don't do this. You're hurting yourself, when really you have more than half in the tank to keep on going.
Yeah.
And so I think I do believe that. I think that's very true. Even just with yourself personally, I would agree.
Yeah, I think especially for like our audience, teenagers, young adults, you probably are thinking that, you're trying to find your own kind of way in life.
Sure.
And it's a time where it's super important that you get around the right kind of influences.
Sure.
But really the focus of this thought is on the fact that you have influence, that you currently do have some level of influence, not only on yourself, but on those around you.
Sure.
And what I thought when I read this is, I thought people who think this way, according to this quote, and realize that, those are who the leaders are in the youth group. Those are who the leaders are one day in church. Like, I think pastors feel this way. Everything that I think and I say and I do, it has an impact on somebody. And if you're constantly thinking that way, you're going to be an influential person.
Sure.
There's just no other way to beat around it. If you are aware of the fact that every action I make before you make that action is going to influence someone, and you think that way, you're going to be a very influential person. And I think that's what he's trying to get at.
And I think this is another application that we always seem to go back to. And I know we hit it over and over and over again. But the thing with influence, realize, again, those who you surround yourself, although, like with the example of the tree, maybe it's not direct influence. Maybe you say you don't give them a lot of your attention. But just being around them, hearing what they say, it starts to put and cast this shadow of influence upon your life as well. And so if it's not a good influence, it's slowly shaping you, or you're getting desensitized to it just little by little.
Right. And so I think that it was a very good thing to stop and consider.
Sure.
Every thought, word, and action has a direct influence, not only on your life, but on that of the people associated with you. And those who think that way, they're the influential people.
Yeah, I think so.
He also
give me the
kind of follows up on that, and he says, with that in mind, let each one realize the opportunity he has to be a force in his community. He says that each person has influence. So then he says, now realize that with that influence, you have an opportunity to influence, to be a force in your community. And I don't think he means like community as in like your city or your state, although that's true.
Yeah, it's true.
But I think he means in those around you, your friends, your peers. If you have an influence, that means that you need to consider the opportunity you have to be a force in that group. And I think a lot of people don't really realize that. They don't think on that, weekly even.
Sure. I've noticed this recently in two aspects, just that your influence, some people say our world's so disconnected with social media and things of that nature, which is true. But there's two things that I've noticed. One, when we wear a shirt and tie in public, it's very evident that people treat you differently. And I'm not saying, they put you on a pedestal, but they know, especially in this area, that person's a Christian. And I noticed that even something slightly, just that small, carries an impact. Because I met people, been walking by, and they've given me and asked, can you pray for this? Just because I was wearing a shirt and tie. Or they've seen something, they'll say, God bless. And they don't say that to everyone else, but because they know. So even something that small, it shows the impact. And then secondly, I've seen my son, right, JT. I try to get him to shake people's hands, wave to people. And the other day we were walking through the Rivermark Plaza, and just this little kid, right? He's starting to walk on his own now, but he's smiling. He waves to the people as they go by. And I'm not trying to be, I think much of Christianity today, they're trying to make it less Christian and more community friendly. Like, we're here for community outreach. No, I'm not. We're supposed to be giving the gospel, not just be the friendly lovey-dovey all the time. But it was just amazing, his impact, just by saying hi, shaking hands, because most kids today, they're stuck on the iPad or stuck on things like that. So when they see a kid that like shakes their hands or waves or says hi and bye, like they're very, they're just shocked. And I think it's such a great opportunity to be a witness like that as well. Just your influence, even from a young age. Like, I've seen it just through that.
It's so interesting that you bring that up, because, I mean, it's exactly what he's saying. Every thought, word, and action has a direct influence. And you wouldn't think like, how old is your son? 2 years? Almost
16 months. Yeah, almost.
So like, you wouldn't think a 2-year-old would have influence. But I mean, after being around JT, those people are like smiling and happy. And so if an almost 2-year-old can influence those around him, can you just imagine what all of the listeners could do? Right? So that's what he's getting at.
And I think like some people, they overthink it too much. Like, okay, the world has tried to steal that. And like, it's karma, or it's you do this and then it's a domino effect, and this causes this. Those commercials, right? Like, there's this guy, he fixed the scaffolding for this business, and if he wouldn't have fixed it, the truck wouldn't have crashed into him, or something crazy like that. You know, the chain reaction that it holds. But I think the world has tried to take that, when really that's for us. That shows our influence and what we could do with the gospel and things like that.
Yeah. So as we're talking about influence, he basically wants us first to realize that everyone has influence. And then he says, okay, that's one thought. Now here's the next thought. You have influence, so realize the opportunity that you have there. And I think if young people would realize that there's an opportunity to be had with the influence that I naturally have, then maybe something can be done. They can be a force. They can do something with their influence. So I thought those were two helpful thoughts. And then there's a third one right here. This one is kind of, I guess, more on the practical level. After he talks about having the realization that there's an opportunity. So every person listening has an opportunity to influence somebody in a positive way. Then he says this, you will find that a great opportunity is literally locked up in the spare moments of life. So it's kind of a little bit of a different thought. It's along those same lines of opportunity, but he says that there is great opportunity that is just locked up in those little spare moments, the 5 minutes here or the 10 minutes here, the few minutes where you just pull out your phone and you look at Instagram, right?
Sure.
There's opportunities just waiting, locked up in those moments. And I was like, it's a different thought, but it's still kind of along those same lines.
Sure.
And I just thought that is a very good thing to consider.
You know what I've seen even, I think we always tend to forget your influence, how it's created and how it can be changed later on in life. And I say that because I've noticed recently with your life, actually, you're scheduling these tour groups to go out and things like that. And I've seen in the past 2 years, you've mentioned how when you were a teenager, you got to go to these special meetings and conferences. And even on tour, they're going to this place called Smite Camp. And you went there and you put in the time and you were being influenced by others while you were there. But now this year you have the opportunity to go back to those places or to schedule and to help those places in just a little way. And I was thinking that's amazing, because in those moments when you were going through Smite Camp or when you were going through those meetings, you didn't see how you would be able to influence it. And not everyone gets to do that, to influence those people just as you were influenced upon. But this year, through your life, I got to see, wow, that's pretty amazing. Like you got to put back an influence in the exact same way someone had an influence upon you, but it wouldn't have been as amazing if you didn't work at that time to go to that camp, or if you didn't work at that time to go to that youth meeting and be a part of it and be in that moment to take it in. And so I thought that was a pretty cool story this year.
It's pretty neat to be able to go back to these places that I got to go to growing up, or at least, send people to that place to try it and help others. I remember seeing different tour groups growing up, never thinking that, oh yeah, one day I'll be able to do something like that. And they're even going to be able to go back to the church that I grew up in. And just, it is a pretty neat full circle moment to be able to kind of have that influence. And, but I mean, that's a good thought. It doesn't really go along with what we were,
I guess not what we were
talking about.
I just really wanted to get it out there,
good,
opportunity.
Good. Yeah.
But yeah, I get the little moments. We waste so much time
up in those little moments. Yep.
Like we honestly do. Even with people, they'll say, all you got to do is work out 12 minutes a day, just the 12 minutes a day, and that'll change your life. Pastor Trieber just told us the other day, all you got to do is walk 30 minutes a day and, it'll transform you. And it's true. And it's just a little bit of time. But it ends up getting wasted when you could change it to be a good influence.
Yeah. So I thought with all three of these thoughts that kind of go together, it kind of made me think of a little bit of a challenge.
We haven't done that in a while.
I know. So the first thing that he wanted us to consider is that every thought, word, action has an influence, right? So basically, first thing is all of us need to realize, myself included, all the listeners, that we have influence. Okay. Then secondly, he wants us to realize that because you have influence, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity to make something happen. You have an opportunity to create some kind of change in somebody else's life. You have an opportunity to inspire someone. You can use the influence that you have. There's an opportunity there. And then he says, you'll find opportunity is locked up in those spare moments of life. So I was thinking it would be pretty neat to kind of be mindful of those like spare moments. And work on a little project in those spare moments that helps you not like demonstrate your influence, but the purpose is I'm going to use my spare moments to influence somebody in some way. So maybe that's I'm going to work on a project, like I'm going to make a video, and maybe it's just a weird one. Maybe some teenagers won't do this, but it's just what I thought of. But I'm going to make a video I'm going to put it out on social media, and it's going to be like the gospel message, or it's going to be something like that. And so it's influencing somebody. It's taking the opportunity to use my influence, and it's using those spare moments where I would normally maybe pull out the phone or maybe just kind of sit around and wait around and do nothing. The thought is to be mindful of those spare moments. And when you have them, kind of work on a little project that influences somebody else. So it's not like a very specific direct challenge. I know we've done that in the past.
Sure.
But I want to challenge all of our listeners to kind of think of something that you can work on.
Sure.
That uses the influence you have. And then, well, where am I going to have time to work on that? Work on it when you have those little spare moments. That's the challenge.
I like it.
Yeah. So
I like it.
Hopefully y'all can think of something. Maybe it's something within your youth group. You can, I don't know, maybe some of you ladies can bake and you want to cheer somebody up.
There we go.
So you can.
That'll change lives.
Yeah. You could bake some cookies. Maybe it's just, I don't know. What else is something that they could do?
No, I think stick with the baking. Do the cinnamon roll thing. Brother Floor and I love cinnamon rolls. I think like if you could say, I am the world's best cinnamon roll maker, you have achieved one of the most top achievements in life.
One of the most top achievements.
Most top achievements in life. That's how amazing that is.
Yeah. But if just think of what is it that I can do to influence others?
Sure.
And then when am I going to work on that? Well, be mindful of those spare moments and create an opportunity.
I would think like one of the ways to influence others is to first be a good influence upon yourself. So you've got to, in those moments, instead of wasting time scrolling, pick up a book for 5 minutes. Yeah. Better yourself for 5 minutes. Pray for 5 minutes. Pray for someone during those spare moments as you're waiting for your car to be washed, or you're waiting to change your oil, or you're waiting at the grocery store. Just pray for a second, and that's one of the best things you could do to influence someone else.
That's true. That goes back to every thought has an influence. And maybe you're just, instead of spending that time thinking on Instagram Reels, you can think about other people and pray for them. That's a good idea. Yeah. So that's maybe the little challenge that goes along with those 3 different thoughts. But
I like that.
In closing, let me summarize.
Okay.
How's that sound? All right. So today, I would hope that all of us would realize, even if we don't think we have it, we have some influence.
Sure.
And then realize that with that influence comes an opportunity to actually help somebody. And so I would hope that all of us would realize, I have influence. I'm going to use it this week. I'm going to find some way to better those around me this week. And when am I going to have time for that? In those little spare moments.
It's good
that we have.
I really like that.
Yeah. Hopefully that could be a help to somebody out there.
I sure hope so.
Yeah. Well, Brother Simmons, any last thoughts on all of this?
Just remember that doing God's will today leads to God's will tomorrow.
Thank you for listening to a Golden Future radio broadcast. If you'd like to listen to our other episodes, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Also, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at agoldenfuture@gspc.edu. And tune in next week to the broadcast dedicated to help this generation discover God's purpose for their lives.